Well, Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, it's great to be joined by you. I consider you the Yoda of racial discussions because these are obviously very, emotional discussions, and somehow you always manage to keep a cool and calm head. So here we are with Jesse Lee Peterson, the Yoda of racial discussions. And I wanted to have you on today, obviously, to talk about the hate crime video that went out on Facebook, all of the aftermath, all of the build up to that. But first, Jesse, let's just talk about this. Let's get this out here. Obviously, everyone's seen the video of now. What was your first reaction to this? How did it kind of touch your heart? What were you thinking as you witnessed this and thought about what might come afterwards?
I wasn't surprised at all. For the last 26 years, I've been trying to warn white Americans that the race war is already happening, except it's a one-sided war where black people are attacking white Americans around the country. You have to realize that not all, but most black people hate white folks. And they're angry at them. They blame white folks for their failure in life. The anger starts in the home, of course, due to the fact that most of them are born out of wedlock. So they're mad at their mothers and grandmothers who passed their anger down to their children. And instead of showing them how to overcome that anger by forgiving their parents, they are being told that it's the white man, it's racism, and white folks are trying to hold you back. So for generations and generations, you've seen black Americans taking their anger out on white folks. The knockout games, robbing and stealing from white folks. I remember there was a last summer sometime when black teenagers were going into white businesses in the daylight and just robbing them. And you have rape, and you haven't heard the media, anyone say anything about it. And I've been writing about this, talking about this, and telling white folks if they don't start standing up and speaking up, each generation of blacks will only get worse. And so this hate, evil act that you saw in Chicago by the four black thugs is just an example of how bad it has really gotten. And it's going to get worse if we don't deal with the anger of black Americans.
And, I hate having to have discussions like this on the principle of skin color or race, but we have to because these issues are apparently still ahead of us. But where do you think the youth or where do you think people in black culture are getting these messages that the white man is to blame or hate the white man? Where are these messages coming from? Where are they getting these foundational beliefs?
Well, over the last 50 to 60 years, they've gotten it from Jesse Jackson, Louis Farrakhan, Al Sharpton, the NAACP, Congressional Black Caucus, and most of the black preachers who are not called by God but by their mama. They have been saying to black Americans, racism is an issue. White people hate you. They're trying to hold you back simply because you're black. And this is slavery. This is part of slavery or aftermath of slavery. And then you bring Barack Obama in the White House for the last 8 years, and that's all he's been talking about. He has created an environment where blacks are more convinced today that white people hate them than any other time in history. Barack Obama support this radical, evil, hateful, agitative organization like Black Lives Matter, who are worse than the KKK. And as a matter of fact, Obama invited the heads of that organization to the White House several times, at least a couple of times for sure. And so he sent out a message that black people are hated by white folks. And you have these young black people in these universities and in the ghettos who are falling for this lie, and they are taking it out. We have seen them kill white cops around the country. And so it's the black so-called leadership who are keeping this lie going forth. We all know by now that there's no such thing as racism. Racism is a lie. It's an illusion that's been made up by the race hustlers. Black Americans are suffering due to the destruction of the family and the lack of moral character. It has nothing to do with white folks at all, but it's the leadership that keep this thing going, along with the liberal media.
Yeah, and I don't think Barack Obama has invited the victim of the hate crime to the White House yet, at least as far as I know. As you mentioned, he has invited folks from the Black Lives Matter movement. But, it's amazing to me how the media has been able to dominate this paradigm, because for me personally, growing up in school as a kid, high school, throughout my whole life, me personally, I've never really had a problem with black people. They have never been racist towards me. I've never been racist towards them. People here at the office and everyday walks of life, black people and white people, the normal people, just seem to get along. Like you said, this racism doesn't seem to exist on the level that they put it on. But how is it that the media, and I guess with Barack Obama too, how is it that they're able to just beat that reality out of us that we experience in day to day and then put this fake reality into our mindset?
Well, when you're angry, you're cut off from the reality, real reality. When you're an angry person, it's hard to believe the truth and easy to believe the lie. And if you notice, over the last 50 years or so, the media, along with the race hustling so-called leadership, they have kept Black Americans angry. They won't allow them to have a moment to examine themselves, to understand that their anger starts in the home first. It has nothing to do with white folk. They're constantly finding things that look like racism. For example, whenever there is a white on black situation, they're all over it. They tell you it's a white man who attacked black people. This is a hate crime. The attorney general, along with the president, come out of the woodwork. They hold press conferences. So they're constantly feeding that anger that's within the hearts and minds of black people so that they can use them. You cannot control a moral people. You have to demoralize them in order to control them. So they keep most, not all, but most Black Americans in a state of anger and demoralization in order to control them, generation after generation. They will not allow you to resolve the issues in the public school system. They won't let you educate your kids at home. They try everything they can do to stop that. They won't let you speak the truth in the churches nowadays because they know if Black Americans ever woke up and took control of their own lives, then the hustlers would go out of business.
Such great points there, psychologically and societally, considering it as well. And, you know, I think that part of what you're talking about here, at least for me, is what's really going on when they try to demonize white people or try to foment these race wars. They're really targeting black people is what they're doing. They're really trying to target the black people in order to, as you said, you know, try to leverage whatever hate or whatever anger that they have in their hearts, whether it be a family issue, an issue at school or whatever it is. They try to take that and then they try to levy that against the white man or against whoever it is that they aim it at. The police is another example here. But to me, it feels like these people, they don't even understand that they're still the black people are actually the victim of this brainwashing because, like you said, they're using the anger. They're using the false narratives.
That's right. Look at Chicago, black on black crime through the roof. And over this past year, something like 762 homicides, I believe, somewhere in there. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Obama has been in the White House for 8 years. He has done nothing about that. And it's right in his backyard, but nothing about it. And whenever he does mention it, it's all about racism. This is racism. This is racism. Obama could have gone in there, cleaned up this mess or that mess, and then insisted that black men and women get married or at least raise their children, be responsible, cut out the government programs, and rebuild that area. But he did nothing. And he doesn't want to do anything because he needs the chaos. He needs the hatred between the races in order to redistribute wealth, power, and wealth in order to gain control for himself. Black leadership, liberal media, and white liberal Democrats can care less about black people. Black folks are just a wage to a means. They are just a vote. They're just there to be used for power and wealth. And this situation in Chicago, even the black police commissioner there in Chicago did not want to call it a hate crime. He tried to get around calling it a hate crime. I guarantee you, had it been four white boys, four white people doing that to a black person, four white people doing that to a black person, the police commissioner would have called it a hate crime right off the bat. But he did not want to do it this time around. He was forced to do it.